Cari Guitar-Nauti, era davvero da tantissimo tempo che volevo fare questo video in cui andiamo a intervistare e conoscere Rick Beato, un personaggio di grandissimo spessore e qualcuno che ha portato secondo me l'idea stessa di YouTuber musicale a un nuovo livello. Rick infatti è stimatissimo in tutto il mondo, è davvero un pozzo di conoscenza sia sulla chitarra che in ambito musicale in tutte le possibili sfaccettature, quindi mi ritengo fortunato nell'aver avuto la possibilità di fargli alcune domande, di cui una in particolare era la cosa che più in assoluto gli dovevo chiedere ed è anche un po' il motivo per cui l'ho contattato. Quindi bando alle chiacchiere e andiamo a goderci insieme questo straordinario momento e documento. So, welcome Rick, finally. Such a pleasure to have you. How are you?
Good, thank you, Claudio. Well, glad to be here. I'm doing great.
Cool. So, Rick, I have a few questions. As I told you, I'd start from the current stuff. So, you're coming to Europe and for a couple of gigs. What kind of shows are they? Do you play at all? Are they like theory masterclass? What should we expect from you?
Um, it's kind of like uh, t- half of a TED talk, I guess. I talk about uh, particular topics depending on where the show is. Sometimes I talk about the cities that I'm in or music that comes out of them. Uh, I do song breakdowns. I do Q&A with the audience. Um, I'll play guitar. I'll talk about particular videos. They're kind of all different, actually. I may talk about things that have happened just recently, or I'll tell stories that I can't really tell on my live stream. And I'll play songs. I'll do song breakdowns of things I can't do on YouTube. Things that are artists that block things.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. And what kind of people do you see at your gigs? Are they all musicians? Are they amateur or what?
That's a good question. A lot of them are just people that love music that are not musicians because when you get to a certain number of subscribers on YouTube or the channel gets to a certain size, you kind of have you're just getting general people that are music fans, and that's I would think, and that's when I started saying that my channel is a more of a music appreciation channel than where I talk about very specific things. I have music theory videos. I have videos on music history. I have song breakdowns, obviously. I have interviews, but so it's really all different types of things related to music and all genres of music, really. And that's why I think of it kind of as a music appreciation channel, and then I get just regular people that are music fans of all different ages.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And yeah, let's talk for a second about guitar because in my case, it's the very center of what I do. In your case, it's not because I mean, as you said, it's more of a general thing, but still, it's important in what you do. And one thing I particularly enjoy are your quick lessons on Instagram, etc. So the question is, sometimes I feel like as a music teacher and player that music is kind of limited, but you always come up with something new. How can you do that? Always coming up with some new ideas on the guitar.
Well, I kind of have my own way of thinking about it that I developed, 40 years ago or so. I like to think I have my own style of playing and my own. I don't. The things that I play are not necessarily based on anything. It's not like, oh, I sweep pick and I just have all sweep picking licks, or or I do. Uh, that there's certain types of techniques that I use or anything, and so I I I think that from being a teacher for so long, I developed ideas that I thought were things that could be used just in general for springboards to for people to develop things on their own. And those are the things that I try to teach: concepts, maybe unusual ways to play scales or play arpeggios, or things that people that are just things that I don't see typically when I look at Instagram or YouTube, that are kind of things that are just natural to me, but they're things that I would teach when I was a guitar teacher 40 years ago.
No, it's interesting because, as you said, the some of the fingering, some of the ideas are quite unconventional. So it's interesting because guitarists, as we know, always think in terms of, boxes, and you tend to go out of that path.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did an interview last week. I had John Petrucci, Tosin Abasi, and Devin Townsend all in the studio at once, and they were out on tour together. But the three of them they don't sit around really and jam or anything. And here they were sitting here. They were here for about 4 or 5 hours, all with guitars. I hooked up a couple amps so they could all hear themselves, and it was interesting to see they have all such different playing styles. And there was one point where John was playing something and showing Tosin, and Devin was doing something, and then Tosin was doing the selective picking thing that John is not, that's not anything he does. And it was absolutely fascinating to watch them. And then you just realize how people have such different styles that they kind of develop all these, everybody's got their own things that they do. But the things that I do are things that I did that really are from the distant past. And I think that there may be things that I just don't see people talk about anymore. Or maybe they're just my own things in the own weird way that I play the guitar. I don't know.
Okay,
But I love playing the guitar. It's my favorite thing to do.
but is it possible? Maybe it's a weird question that since you opened your channel, because I've been following all the way through, is it possible that you improved your guitar skills, or am I mad? Because
No,
it's
I think
kind of what I saw.
so. I think that I definitely have improved my guitar skills in that I have uh, I'm able to play things that I used to play a long time ago. That's when I say if I think about have I improved my guitar skills or have I finally gotten back to kind of where I was.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of both. I went through a period early on, probably when I first started posting on Instagram, where I got frustrated with the vertical format. So then I started holding the guitar up like this, and I did like a year's worth of videos. But I can't really play like that. My picking hand is in a weird spot. You can't play with vibrato, and it just feels weird. I couldn't really play that well. It's the only way I could figure out how to get it in. Then it was like, okay, I'm going to just film in regular horizontal. It's funny to think about, right? You know about this. And then I'll just edit it where I'll just move the camera around to wherever I'm playing, and that seems to be. And then I found ways of just editing the videos to where you can actually see on the neck. And I figured out, okay, how do you actually film vertically to teach people? So there was a lot of, and then I went back to playing normally, the way I normally sit, and then my playing improved again, from just playing the guitar the normal way.
No, I see what you mean. For me, that position is totally unnatural. So yeah, I
Yes.
totally
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah.
And talking about music theory,
Yeah.
a while ago, I took a look at your interactive book. I took a look at the program, and it's huge. I mean, I was really impressed by by how wide it is. So, what's the concept behind it? Is it covering the whole possible musical knowledge?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, when I wrote my book initially, long before it was a video course. I wrote it back when I was teaching college back in the 1980s, and there was no textbook that really addressed the things that I wanted to talk about, the types of arpeggios, the types of scales, I mean, they had some books, but very few. Um, and certainly nothing in the style of the things that I wanted to teach. So about modes, about the way that harmony works, and including classical concepts in along with with technique and playing over chord changes and chord progressions, things like that. So it's all of my courses are really dense. There's a ton of information in them. So I can't just put out something that isn't really thorough. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's not the go-to thing for a beginner, but for more expert musician, I guess they are interesting.
Yeah, well, I have a beginner guitar course and stuff too, but I mean, really, my courses are can be used by professionals because I have people that I taught 35 years ago that say that they still use my book because there's just so many things in there that it's like you can almost can't get through it after a while, you know. And now that there's a video component with the now that it's all digital, now you can jump around and everything's far easier to use than when it was a book, when it was just a PDF or a physical book. Now it's far better now.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. And so, Rick, I'd like to talk about for a second about one of your very first videos, the one with your son and with his amazing perfect pitch. I guess that was a turning point in your YouTube channel history. And my question is, when you have such talent to cope with as a parent, it must be also a matter of responsibility. Like, what do I do now to help channel that talent in the right direction? So I'd like to ask you what are your thoughts about it? Is he still studying music, for instance?
So that video, the videos I did with Dylan were before my YouTube channel. Those were all on Facebook. Actually, I did eventually put them on my YouTube channel, but those were really big videos on Facebook. So pre-YouTube, 2015 and then 2016. I started my channel in the summer of 2016. When I started my channel, I had about 40 subscribers, something like that. So a responsibility. But there's a bunch of different questions. So Dylan studied piano for 4 years, and he studied the oboe for probably 3-4 years or so. He's not really he likes music, but he's not really engaged in music. He likes playing sports, and his that's kind of his thing is that you know, all your kids, I have 3 kids, and they all have their own paths of the things that they like to do. Is there a responsibility to teach kids? Well, you can't give kids inspiration in that kids find things that they're just interested in, just like I found the guitar, like you did too. You know, it's just you find these things that fascinate us that you just want to study, and they all have their own individual things that they like to do. And I, as a parent, my wife, as parents, we just support them in what they are interested in, and that's the best thing you can do as a parent is just encourage them. And so, you know, you can have the best ear in the world, but instruments don't play themselves, right? You have to,
Yeah.
you got to sit there and do the work. And it doesn't matter that you can hear an Alan Holdsworth solo and know what the notes are, what the chords are. If you can't play them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting starting skill, but then
Sure.
of course you have to develop it. Yeah, thanks for the answer. I mean, it wasn't meant to be personal. It was just a thought about parents who find themselves to cope, to manage that kind of talent and how to do it.
Yeah, well, I didn't think, I answered it in probably in the way that, just from my own personal experience, I would never try to give parents uh, my opinions on parenting, other than my parents were incredibly encouraging to me to follow music and gave me the confidence because of that to think I could do anything that I wanted to do and be good at it if I worked hard at it. And that's, to me, is the ultimate thing that you can do for your kids. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
ultimate thing you can do for your friends, for anyone, I think.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Sorry, there's a specific question I always wanted to ask you because in Italy we have this huge debate and clash between two ideas. the traditional kind of professional in the music industry on one hand, and on the other hand, people like myself, but like others who grow their popularity through the internet. And it's always like, don't trust those guys on the from the internet, from YouTube, because trust real professionals. And your names often comes up because you're kind of both at the same time. So I wanted to take the chance to hear your opinion, because for instance, in the US it looks like you kind of got over it. I saw like people like Jared Dines on the cover of an important magazine, and he's a YouTuber. In Italy, that wouldn't happen. So what is your thought about it?
Um, yeah, I guess that the legitimacy of YouTubers was something that was in question for a long period of time. Um, I think when I started my channel, if I think about the people that I've been able to interview, from Brian May and Sting and Keith Jarrett and people like that, I mean, some of the greatest musicians that have ever lived, greatest songwriters ever, the Pat Metheny, they wouldn't be on YouTube channels in the past, really. You wouldn't see them doing interviews for a YouTuber on their YouTube channel. YouTube has grown in its kind of as a place that people go for entertainment and for learning. I think of YouTube as a learning platform, and it's an entertainment platform. And honestly, Claudio, most of my friends now just watch YouTube. They find their channels that they like, and that's what they consume, which is fascinating. I think it's amazing. And so I think the legitimacy of being a YouTuber, or the acceptance of YouTube as a platform for serious people, I guess, or whatever it is if somebody like Sting is willing to come on my channel, or Steve Gadd or Keith Jarrett or Pat Metheny or Brian May or Sting, then I think it's a great thing. So I don't think that there's a necessarily this separation now between professional musicians and YouTubers. You can kind of be both.
Yeah, I definitely
Content,
agree.
right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, obviously. And another thing I like to talk about with you, I can't help it, is about today's music, because you've done more than one video talking about current music. And there are so many people saying there's always great music out there, even when it comes to rock music. And they are, I mean, it's likely to be right. Why wouldn't that be? But then there are so many people of any age thinking that something after the 90s happened, something kind of died. And I feel that my nephew, who is 17 years old, feels exactly the same way. So it's not like, I'm growing old and I think new music is rubbish. It's not just that. There must be something. So, I mean, I know it's a large question, but what do you think happened back then, and why so many people think that after the 90s something kind of broke down?
Well, what happened? The internet
The internet. Okay.
streaming, digital audio workstations where people could record things even if you couldn't play well. I mean, I'm not a person that says that there's no good music out there. There's phenomenal music being made nowadays. It's just hard to find because there's so much stuff out there. There's a great YouTube video that I watched 4 years ago by a channel called Veritasium, and it was called My Video Went Viral, Here's Why. And in it, he talks about YouTube being this iceberg. And the only thing that you see, most of an iceberg is underwater. The only thing that you see is the tip. With YouTube, is the tip of 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 it. So basically, you're unaware of almost all the content on YouTube, other than the channels that you visit regularly. Every day, my channel gets thousands of new subscribers. And some people will ask me, how do people not know your channel? You've got whatever, three something, whatever it is, 303.5 million subscribers. And I say, it's a big world out there. I discover new things every day on YouTube that I was like, how do I not know this channel? Guitar channels that, how have I never been? I found a guitar channel yesterday that I've never seen before. And it was after scrolling down and down and down and down and down, and then a video was recommended there. And I clicked on it and it's like, how have I never been recommended this channel? So, that being said, getting back to your original question, there's just so much stuff out there nowadays because it's so easy to record music and put it out there for the whole world that it's just, people are so inundated. Back in the 90s, that was the last time that music was monolithic, meaning that there was one distribution network for the most part through major record labels. There was a way that people heard the music through radio and through MTV or through VH1, whatever. There's certain mediums through magazines. But then the internet happened and you had file sharing and you had DAWs and people who record albums in their own homes, and you could record something right now, upload it to YouTube, and it's out there and it can be seen by thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people in a day. And so it's just a completely different, we're just inundated with so much information right now. That's probably why people feel that way.
Okay. So you don't think there was a decay necessarily in the...
Oh, no, I think there's a decay too.
Okay, yeah, that's the point.
But there's still an unbelievably great stuff out there. It's it's so hard to find.
Yeah, my question, and it's unanswered, is what happened exactly? Because I mean, you always a good answer, but still, I don't know. it's not the ultimate one.
Well, I think there's something to be said for the fact that certain music got invented at a certain time. The Beatles invented a lot of music. So did Chuck Berry, so did Little Richard, so did, Charlie Parker invented bebop with, Dizzy and Monk and Miles. And so once the things have been invented and then they've been recorded and there's a definitive audio recording of something, like there's only one version of Strawberry Fields. Now, yeah, there's plenty of cover versions of it, but there's only one Beatles version of it, and that's the definitive version. But if I were to take the, Bach Well-Tempered Clavier or the first cello suite or something, there's thousands of recordings of these things, right? There is no definitive version of Bach playing it. And because of that, people can keep reinterpreting it over and over, and people accept that there are many different versions. People like many different versions of it. So a lot of stuff's been invented already. There is something to be said about that. Can people reinvent it? Sure, they can keep combining influences, but eventually it's hard to do original things. So maybe that's another reaction that you're having to this, that things nowadays, now their emphasis is more on sonics and on the beat or the beat elements, the kick drum sounds, the hi-hat sounds, the, whatever the
lyrics too.
The lyrics, yes, the lyrics. So there's the sonics, there's the lyrics that have become taken the forefront over the song structure and melodic elements and harmony from the 90s.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, my theory is that rock music has come kind of to an end, just like classical music did, because you said that you can reinvent it, you can reinterpret it, but artistically it had a beginning and an end. And but that's my opinion. So I think this is like a tale.
I don't mean to interrupt, but anytime you start putting neo in front of something, neo soul or neoclassical or neo romantic or whatever it is, yeah, you know, the once you start putting in that, you know, it's a rehash to a certain degree of stuff that's already existed. And then once you get past that, what do you get? Neo soul that comes out in another 10 years or so, that are people that are imitating people now, imitating people from the, you know, from 40 years ago. So a lot of the stuff has already been invented and done well, and there are definitive recordings of them. Not saying that there can't be new things and people that are better than them even, you know, but some of the reaction that people may have may be because of that particular thing. And I'm not one of these guys, oh, music is not, you know, there's things are not as good as they were, or whatever. It's just, no, it's just harder to find stuff that's original and great, just because there's so much stuff to weed through, and it's very difficult to do that. People don't have the time, so they rely on algorithms to feed you new stuff. But typically algorithms feed you stuff that you already like, in the same style of things that you already like. So then you're like, well, this sounds like everything else. It's like, well, that's because that's what you listen to, and these algorithms are only going to feed things, so it's hard to discover new things.
It's a vicious circle.
It is.
And yeah, so back to your work and to your plans. One final question: how do you see your YouTube channel mainly, but your work in general, in the next few years? Do you think you'll stick to the kind of content you had so far, or do you think you'll want to experiment or revolutionize it all?
Well, every year I do something a little differently. This year I've done a lot of interviews. Over the past year or so, I've done many more interviews. And that was kind of a thing that I was doing this year in 2023. I was focusing more on that. I'm going to get more back into recording in some videos. I'm redoing my studio as we speak, rewiring things. And so I think that's going to be the next, that there will be more recording videos like I used to do on my channel. And I'm starting to do some more guitar playing videos. I did a solo breakdown last week of this Carlos Rios guitar solo.
I watched it.
Yeah,
Super
I'm
cool.
doing a video. I'm doing a Pat Metheny solo breakdown that I'm going to start working on, that I'll put out probably next week.
Will you get some advice from him?
From Pat? No.
Like, hey Pat, how's that passage?
No, but it's interesting to I was never one to, I don't sit around and transcribe solos or anything. I haven't done that in decades. But when I'm going to make a video, Pat has a really unique style. This unlike anyone, and the way he phrases is unlike anyone, and where he plays things is so different that to actually perform one of his solos kind of faithfully to what he's doing, especially when it's not on video, Pat uses his pinky way more than most people, and Pat jumps all over the guitar and has a very unguitaristic approach to improvising. But I have a pretty good idea to where he plays things, I think, because I know his playing pretty well. So, but this has been fascinating, kind of thinking about what to do. And I watched some videos of him last night, and was and just re-marveling, even though I've seen Pat play many times over decades, about how much he uses his pinky. And where he'll use his pinky a bunch of times in a row and be jumping all over. And it's like, there's nobody uses their pinky as much as Pat does. So it's fascinating. And I love that stuff. I just love learning things like that.
Cool. So we have to expect more and more music in all forms.
Absolutely. And Claudio, so I've only been to Italy once. Now, all my grandparents came from Italy, all four of them. They were all born in the 1800s, all my grandparents. And they came.
I wanted to ask, in fact,
yes,
if you had Italian origins.
I'm 100% Italian.
Cool.
My Well, three of my grandparents came from Sicily, from Palermo, and then my the Beatos came from the Abruzzi region.
Well, my wife too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we might be kind of a, yeah, family.
There you go. So, but I've been once. I went in 2019 for the first time, and I loved it. I taught for a week at a music conference in Alba, which is in northern Italy.
Yeah.
I made a couple videos when I was there. I found this music store that was insanely huge, like the biggest music store I've ever seen. And it was a funny video because I was asking people at the hotel. I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a music store to go to." "Oh, there's this place that's 30 minutes from here. It's huge, biggest music store you'll see." And I'm thinking, "Oh, sure, out in the middle of nowhere." And Claudia, I get to this place, and it was enormously big. It was like 6 guitar centers big, and I was just laughing. It's like they were right. And
Oh,
I
really?
video in it. I
I
forget
can't
what the
think of
place was.
what that is. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
I'll send you a link to the video. And it was just so funny that people were telling me that this place is massive.
Was it in Naples?
It was not in Naples, no.
Okay.
I forget where it was. I'll send you the thing, and they had everything. I couldn't. It was amazing. It was and it just cracked me up. It's like, "Oh, you haven't seen a store like this." I'm thinking, okay, sure. We're out in the middle of nowhere. And it's like drive and drive and drive and drive, and then all of a sudden we get there. It's like, my God, they got everything. A massive drum thing, and massive guitar thing, and every pedal you could
Hey,
imagine.
now I want to know
It was very funny.
what store.
So,
It is.
but I plan to come back and actually do a proper visit to
Yeah,
Italy.
maybe I can. I don't know if I can, but maybe I can help if you don't have anything planned. Yeah, let's make it happen. It's got
Sure.
to happen. So, Rick, would you like to say hi to the guys watching? Would you like to say something
Sure.
to
Absolutely.
your fans in Italy because you have so many in Italy?
Oh, well, hello. I wish I could speak some Italian. I'm such a bad Italian, Claudia. My mom could speak, but that was it as far as the all my grandparents spoke Italian to each other so that the kids wouldn't know what they were saying, and they didn't teach the kids. That was not the thing to do back, 60, 70 years ago. So, but hello to my Italian fans out there, and really appreciate you checking out the channel, and look forward to meeting some of you sometime when I come visit.
Great, great. Thanks, Rick. It was a great pleasure. Hope to
Thank
see
you.
you soon in
Pleasure.
person. Bye. See you. Thanks.
Yep.
Bene ragazzi, spero che questa intervista vi abbia appassionato, almeno quanto lo ha fatto a me. Devo dire che Rick si è dimostrato un professionista incredibile, ma soprattutto una persona straordinaria. Ci siamo fermati anche nel fuori onda a parlare a lungo, finita l'intervista, a scambiare idee, a parlare dell'Italia, a parlare di futuro, di un sacco di cose, e devo dire che è una persona davvero incredibilmente anche aperta al confronto con gli altri. Fatemi sapere chi altri vorreste vedere intervistato qua sul canale di YouTube. Nelle prossime settimane torneremo a occuparci chiaramente di chitarra da altri punti di vista, con tutorial, lezioni e quant'altro, e noi ci vediamo presto. Ciao!